So I'm going to attempt to make my first cider. I'm going to try a pear cider. I believe there is 26 pears there. And in my pot I have 21 cups of water. So I'm going to go ahead and put all these pears through a food processor and I'll be back. Okay, so there's all the pears blended in the food processor and into the water. As you can see, it's a lot fuller than it was before. There's 21 cups of water and 26 pears in here. So we're going to let this simmer for a few hours now just to get it to turn into a pear juice. I didn't put any sugar and I didn't put any cinnamon in here yet, but that'll be more towards the end. Once I strain it, then I'll add it to taste. I'm not really concerned about having a high alcohol cider. I'll be fine with 5 or 6%. So that's where we are right now. I'll be back when it's time to strain. Okay, so it's been cooking for about an hour now, and as you can see, it's cooking away nicely, but it's going to take a few hours to do this. So there's a long time still to cook. I'm just stirring it every so often. It's on, oh, my oven goes up to 9 high, and it's on about a 2. So we're just going to keep stirring it and cook it for a few more hours, and then it should be delicious. We'll have to strain it, but I'll come back before that process. Okay, so I have my bucket here, and I sterilized it all with Star San. We're going to go ahead and pour this through the cloth mesh. I've already added the cinnamon. I added about 3 tablespoons of cinnamon and probably 2 cups of sugar. It's going to be pretty low in alcohol content, but I want to be able to drink this like it would be a beer versus wine. So I actually want it to be a little lower. You can go ahead and add more sugar to get the hydrometer reading for the alcohol you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and take one once I pour this through because this is too thick for a hydrometer to read through it anyways. So I'm going to strain it and then I'll check it and see just what it's at. I might have to add some more sugar, but I'm kind of hoping for around 6% alcohol. So I'm going to take this big pan and go ahead and dump it into here. I'm not going to be able to do that on camera because I need both hands because it's still hot. So if you don't have a food grade bucket or something that can withstand the heat, wait for this to cool down. Don't try and pour it in and melt your plastic. But mine's a brewing food grade basket or bucket, so I'll be fine. So I'm going to pour the pot, this big pot, into there, and we'll be back. Okay, so one trick I actually do is I tie the mesh straining bag to my fridge with all my kids' words and the bedtime calendar, but and I just let it drip dry. You got to make sure the bottom, I don't know if it's going to get foggy, but you got to make sure the bottom isn't actually touching the liquid, which mine isn't. As you can see, it's dripping. Because if it's just touching the water or the liquid, you're never going to get it strained out. So just let it hang there and get as much of the stuff as you can out. That way you're not wasting any. I wouldn't squeeze the bag. If you squeeze it, you tend to have longer to get it clear. It doesn't really matter with a cider anyways, because I mean you're drinking it before it's cleared anyway. But I'm just going to stay on the safe side and not squeeze it out. But I will take a hydrometer reading in a little bit, and I'll be back when I do that. I'm just going to let this drip for a while, and I'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I ended up with about 2 gallons, a little more than 2 gallons of the cider. I added a little more sugar after I took a hydrometer read. It was pretty low. I added about a pound of sugar to it. Now it's at 1.04, which will give me about 5% alcohol, which is plenty for what I need. So we're just going to let it cool because it's still pretty hot to the touch. It would kill my yeast for sure. So I'm going to let it sit for a while. And hopefully cool off tonight so I can add my yeast to it. So I'll be back when this is done. Okay, so my must is about 104 degrees, which is going to be perfect temperature to add my yeast. Usually I do a yeast starter, but today I'm not going to. I'm just going to dump it right in here. Now I'm using the Lavlin EC1118, which is what I always use. I'm only going to use half the pack because, like I said, there's only 2 gallons here, and this is good for 5. So we're just going to dump it in, and that's probably too much actually, but it'll be fine. And then we're going to stir it. And then we are done. Okay, so it's been about 3 days now, and as you can see, it's just bubbling away nicely, doing exactly what it needs to do. It's really starting to smell like alcohol now. So that's what I'm gonna leave it at for now. I'll be back when it's time to rack it out of the pail into the carboy, or I'm not sure if I'm going to do a 5-gallon carboy or if I'm going to do 2 1-gallons, but we'll be back when it's time to do that.